Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mindful Momentum Podcast. I'm your host, Robin Todd, and I'm so grateful that you're here with us today. As always, we have a rock star guest with us that I'm excited to visit with, dive into a little deeper conversations about her lived experience, her wisdom, her expertise in a lot of different spaces. So I know you're going to find her amazing as well. Welcome, Dr. Ashley Smith. So
Thank you so much for having me here, Robin. I'm excited to talk today.
absolutely. Okay, I meant to ask you before we started, do you prefer Dr. Smith, Dr. Ashley, Ashley,
Dr. Ashley.
Dr.
Yeah,
Ashley?
either.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay. So, Dr. Ashley Smith is an award winning licensed psychologist, speaker, author, and co founder of Peak Mind, the Center for Psychological Strength. She's dedicated to helping people master their minds, push past limitations, and live with purpose and courage. What makes Dr. Ashley's story even more powerful is that she lives what she teaches. Despite a rare degenerative retinal disease that has left her legally blind, she's built a bold, fulfilling life, seeking out new experiences every week for nearly a decade now. Yay for you. She's passionate about travel, reading, dancing, and helping others build psychological strength in their own lives. So let's dive in. Awesome. Okay. So, Dr. Ashley, there's just so much, so little time, and so much to talk about. But I think let's start with you said your mission is to help people master their minds and live with
Mhm.
purpose and courage. What? So, what does mental mastery look like in everyday life? And where do you feel most people get stuck?
That is a great question, and we could go a lot of different directions with it. So let me start by saying at Peak Mind, we have this saying your mind can be your greatest asset or your biggest liability, and you get to choose. And what most people don't recognize or don't really understand is how their mind works. It is a separate entity from you, and it is designed to keep you safe. It is not designed to make you successful. It is certainly not designed for happiness. So our minds evolved to keep us safe. And it's really, really good at its job, but sometimes it's too good. And so what happens and where most people go awry is they have these thoughts in their mind and they think it's them. They think that it's fact, right? That whatever they're thinking is somehow important, somehow true, that it's an accurate reflection of reality, that they have to follow whatever their mind says. And that is just simply not the case. And so let me make this make sense a little bit. We all have a stomach, right? And you don't say, I am growling. You say, my stomach is growling. And then
Mhm.
sometimes we listen to the growls and we might eat if we're hungry or not. Sometimes we might just say, oh, no, that's just something my stomach is doing. And we ignore it or override it. Our hearts pound and we don't say, I am pounding. We say, my heart is pounding.
Mhm.
And we sometimes do something about it or don't, right? If you're working out, we're like, oh, this is a good thing. And if not, it just tells us we're excited or nervous. But the point is, we don't identify as our heart. It is part of me that helps me stay alive. Well, our minds think. That's what they do. Stomachs growl, hearts beat, minds think. But somehow we've gotten this idea that thinking is, again, real, meaningful, accurate, something that we have to listen to without recognizing that most of what we think in any given day is the equivalent of a mental stomach rumbling. It's just
Mhm.
something that's happening, and we don't have to listen to it, and we don't have to follow what it says.
What a great analogy. I mean, just in viewing it from other body parts. How do you
Hmm.
think? I'm just curious as we're talking,
Hmm.
how is it that we got here? Is it because the
Hmm.
mind is so hard to separate as opposed to like the organ of the heart and
Hmm.
the stomach? I mean, how is it that we have gotten that meshed together as opposed to other organs? Do you think? Do you have any idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have some ideas, but I also think that's a question that philosophers and scientists wiser than I am haven't been able to answer. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is because we think in terms of I or you, so it feels like part of us. And that's, I think, really the big difference is it feels like I. It feels like the where I exist in this whole body system. And so it makes it hard unless you've been taught or unless you've done a lot of mindfulness practice. We don't step back and see the mind for what it is and how it works. And it becomes almost like it's like looking at the world through tinted lenses and you're just seeing the world, let's say they're green lenses. You just see the world as green instead of being able to take off the glasses and then look at them and say, oh, those are lenses. And that's what our thinking does. If we haven't done the mindfulness or the psych strength work to separate from it, it just distorts our entire reality. It's like a filter that we don't know is on.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah. What you were talking
Hmm.
about makes me think of this infographic that I saw years ago. And it's this question, and I oftentimes pose it to myself: who's in charge, the thinker or the thought? You,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
it
oh,
exactly.
because we oftentimes, when we're not aware, we go through life
Hmm.
letting the
Hmm.
thought be in charge, which is based in
Hmm.
fear, which is based in, all of those things to help keep us alive. And yeah, it helps us to kind of step
Absolutely.
back and ask those questions. But love that. I love
Yeah.
that analogy too of the other body organs. So,
Hmm.
so you have a rare retinal disease. And
Hmm.
I know I didn't even mention that I was fortunate to meet you a few years ago through a mutual friend, and so learned a
Hmm.
little bit about your story and got to watch your TED Talk,
Hmm.
and know a little bit about that. But I would love for you, if you're willing, to share a little bit of
Sure.
your personal story and story of resilience and hope and all kinds of inspiration wrapped up in that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. So there's the personal side. As you said, I was born with a rare degenerative retinal disease. It's called occult macular dystrophy, and it makes me legally blind. My symptoms are essentially the cone cells in my retina don't work properly. So I have a blind spot in my central vision. So the blind spot is cone shaped, meaning the closer something is, the smaller the blind spot, but the further out I look, the bigger it gets. And things, when they hit the blind spot, they just sort of disappear. So functionally, it means I have a hard time recognizing faces from any distance. So if you wave at me and I don't wave back, I'm not stuck up. I didn't see you. I have a hard time reading print in books, screens. I have a really hard time with bright light. It sort of shuts my eyes down. And I don't drive because of vision. And so I've had these symptoms since, I don't know, early elementary school is when they started to show up, but they weren't
So
as
you knew,
severe.
did you know
And
about this after you were born? I
well,
mean, did you know this was?
yeah, I was probably fourth grade-ish when it started to show up. They would do eye screenings at school, and my results would come back not right, but glasses didn't do anything. So it was this weird, we don't know what's wrong with her. We know it runs in the family. My grandmother had, as she put it, bad eyes. And then my dad has symptoms now, but he didn't at that time. So, uh, and honestly, most of my life, it was a specialist after specialist saying, we don't know what's wrong. It's all in her head, or
Oh, God.
whatever. And it won't get worse. We don't know. And honestly, they were wrong. I finally got an accurate diagnosis about 8 years ago with the advance of genetic testing, and they've been able to identify the affected gene. But that means I was in my mid to late 30s. And so I spent most of that time prior to that not knowing. And for me, what this really translated to was early in life feeling like this is a fundamental flaw, that my vision makes me less than. I was kind of a socially anxious teenager, not kind of, I was a socially anxious teenager, didn't know it. And this was just one other thing, right? So when I look back, knowing what I know now, I can see it all. But I
Yeah.
mean, I like to joke, hindsight's the only 2020 I got. But um, at the
Mm-hmm.
time, my mind was telling me things. If people know about your vision, they're going to shun you. They're going to reject you. No one's going to want you personally. And then professionally, I'm a psychologist. And when I went to graduate school, I happened to start studying social anxiety, where there was a lot of light bulbs of, oh, this explains a few things. So I started to practice what I preach from an anxiety standpoint, and confidence went way up. I got more comfortable in my skin. Career wise, I specialized in working with people with anxiety disorders and OCD, and it was amazing. I loved what I was doing. And still, I had this deep down I am flawed. And so I worked really hard to hide my vision impairment. My doctors called me well adapted, but what it meant was I was really good at faking normal.
Mm. Yeah.
And then my vision loss progressed to the point where I couldn't drive anymore. I knew I was unsafe. I knew it was just a matter of time before someone got hurt. So I made the decision to give up my keys, and that was a decade ago. And
Wow, that
that,
had
if
to
I'm being
be
candid,
a
it's
decision. Mm.
it sucked. I mean, to be honest, it sucked. And I have fantastic coping skills. It's a side effect of my job. I know what to do with anxiety. I know what to do with depression. And it wasn't enough. So I was really wallowing. I was utterly convinced that I was destined to a miserable future, that I wouldn't be able to be independent, that I wouldn't be able to do the professional things. I'm ambitious, and I really thought I wasn't going to be able to do any of this stuff, that people were, now I couldn't hide my flaw. They were going to see it, and then what? And that was a turning point because eventually I got so tired of being stuck and being miserable that I figured, I don't know what else to do. I cannot change my vision. So I have to figure out another way. And I did what I do best, which is go to science. And I started poring over the science of happiness and well being and started experimenting my way forward. And then fast forward, here we are now. My vision is the worst that it's ever been. I write about it, I speak about it, and I'm not freaked out. I'm open, I'm accepting of it, and honestly, I'm doing bigger things than I ever thought I could do
Wow.
before I had to
Yeah.
stop driving.
Isn't it
Yeah,
interesting how sometimes those hardships end up becoming the blessing that was the
absolutely.
catalyst to get us to where we're meant to be. And without it, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to feel that in the midst of it when it's hard and it's painful and
Hmm.
we want something different than life is giving us, but so
Yeah.
many times I feel like we all look back and go, "Oh, well, that had to happen to get me
Yeah.
here."
Absolutely. I mean, it's the hero's journey, right? Every story you've ever seen, every movie that you love, every hero has some sort of adversity that
Yeah.
becomes the catalyst or the impetus for their strength. And so I wish I had known that then. It's something I teach now of if we can just zoom out enough, you can see that this
Yeah.
could turn into a good thing. And it doesn't mean, oh, I'm so glad it happened. Like honestly, I don't know that I would say, oh, I would choose vision
Sure.
impairment, but I am grateful for what it has taught me. And the
Yeah.
other piece no one talks about is post traumatic growth, right? In the field of psychology, people know about post traumatic stress disorder, which is when you go through something hard and your healing process gets interrupted. We know PTSD, we treat PTSD. There's
Right.
a lot of good information out there. There's just as much research on post traumatic growth, how going through something hard actually becomes the fuel for increased strength, resilience, and growth, but we don't talk about it. And I wish we did because that would change it. In the moment when you're going through something hard, if you knew this could pay off down the road, it doesn't make it suck less, but it makes it a little bit easier to bear.
Right. Well, what you're describing is resilience,
Mhm.
right? We've kind of called that
Absolutely.
resilience, but I
Hmm.
love the post-traumatic growth. That's an
Hmm.
awesome coined term. Is that a term in the scientific community or is that your term?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, oh no, I wish I could take
yeah.
credit for it. I learned it from Dr. Martin Seligman, who's the
Oh,
father of
yes.
positive psychology.
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, I've read a lot about him. Um,
Hmm.
that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, I also think too, as you're talking about this, even if we embrace those challenges and struggles, I think that
Hmm.
we still have to allow ourselves to process and grieve, through that.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it makes it
Yes.
quicker or a light switch
No.
changes, because I think ultimately we all have to experience that process and honor that
Hmm.
space that we're
Absolutely.
in. Yes, but still knowing that
Yeah.
there is hope on the other side, I think
Hmm.
might just be that little lifeline, yeah, to help people get through.
Yeah. That's actually exactly how I describe hope as a lifeline, right?
Yeah.
That's it. You hold on to it. And hope is just a trust that things can get better. And I
Yes.
think no one can predict the future. Our mind's default
Mhm.
is negativity. What could go wrong? And you can let that be your default, or you can choose to trust that it will work out, choose to trust that it will be okay,
Yeah.
assuming that you're also doing the work. We can't just throw up our hands and say, oh, I'm not going to take any active role in this. But you're
Right.
absolutely right. We can't, I don't think there is a shortcut to make
Mhm.
things painless,
Yeah.
right? Life is hard and it is going to hurt.
Yeah.
And there's a, I think it's credited to an old Buddhist saying that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Yes, I
I
love
like to
that.
put it as just because life gives you a cactus doesn't mean you have to sit on it. And our
I love that.
minds, yeah, yeah, I got it. To be honest, I got it from a Facebook meme years ago, so I can't take credit, but I think it's
It
brilliant.
is brilliant.
So,
Yes, it's true.
yeah.
And it goes
But
back to what you said, earlier. It goes back to that choice, right?
mhm,
I have a
yeah,
choice. We all have
yes,
a choice every single moment of every single day.
yeah. What I see people get twisted up about, though, is not liking their choices, right? I love to give the example of, let's say you're hungry and you want Thai food. Like, I want Thai food, but the Thai restaurant is closed. So you can get Italian or you can get burgers. But it's like, I want Thai food. I'm like, great. So what are you going to do? Not eat? Okay,
Right.
that's not helping you out. Or what are you going to do? Go, fine, I'll have a burger, but you're going to grumble the whole entire time you're there. Well, you're not starving anymore, but you're not happy either. So sometimes we have to make peace with what are the actual choices in front of me and exercise control over the things that we can.
Yeah.
And that's where people, I think, go wrong a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, such beautiful advice. And it sounds so easy, but
Right?
it's a little harder.
But it's
It's a
not.
little harder than,
Yeah.
but it's like, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I think at the root of it, which is of course what we do here at Mindful
Hmm.
Momentum, is helping people build that awareness and self-understanding.
Absolutely.
Because without that,
Hmm.
I mean, I can know this right now, but fast
Hmm.
forward, in a moment, I shift back
Yeah.
onto autopilot, I'm going to forget everything you said. So,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
and I think mindfulness is the crux of everything, right? It's the crux of psychological strength. That's what we teach at Peak Mind. Mindfulness is a core component of it. But that
Mhm.
is, if we look at what are things you actually can control, it's your attention. But
Right.
it takes effort because by default, things that make us anxious or angry hijack our attention. Problems hijack our attention. Negativity or the negative things hijack our attention. And unless you've really exercised and worked out your mindfulness muscle, you're going to spend your entire life paying attention to the things that suck. And it's not about denying that they exist. I'm not going to sit here. It's not about just be positive. Never
Right.
have I been like, I'm so glad I'm going blind. This is awesome. No, but I know what it's like to not control my attention. And I just focused on, I can't see, I can't see, I can't. It was this thought that dominated every waking moment of my life. A mindfulness practice was a huge part of my journey to get to where I am now. And that thought comes up once in a blue moon. They're
Sure.
paying attention to other things. And that's something people don't always recognize. Like your attention is something inside your control, but people
Yeah.
give up control of that. They don't work on that piece.
Or they just don't
So,
even know. They're not even
right.
aware that there is
Yeah,
such a thing and that they can choose what to pay
absolutely.
attention to. I mean, there's
Mm.
so much of that and it's beautiful. And I'm a work in
Mhm.
progress, trust me. But
Same.
I do will catch myself, like fixating and then it's like, hold on. Okay. Let's rein this back in.
Yeah,
Let's shift where our focus is, where our attention is, because, it does. It's amazing. Yeah,
absolutely.
it really is. So let's see. As a psychologist and co-founder of Peak Mind, what
Mhm.
are you mentioned some of the core practices in terms of
Mhm.
mindfulness or principles that you teach that
Mhm.
help people push past their limitations? So you've mentioned mindfulness. What are some of
Mhm.
the other things you do with Peak
Yeah.
Mind to help people, yeah, feel empowered?
Yeah. Absolutely. So at Peak Mind, we do employee and leader well-being and psych strength trainings. And so really and I say we, my co-founder is Dr. April Seifert, and she and I go way back to grad school and then uh, really came together. She was working on a podcast. I had started a blog, and we realized we have this shared passion for taking what we know from the field of psychology and taking it out of the ivory towers of academia, out of the therapy office, and making it accessible because
Yeah,
everybody needs this stuff, right? It's such an old
absolutely.
antiquated model to think it only applies to people with a diagnosable mental illness. Mental health applies to every single person with a brain. So we started to
That's all of
create
us.
training, right? Yeah. And so our model of psychological strength, which is that is the term that we coined to kind of capture this. So we went to the research and we looked at what are all of the things that science shows are really important for resilience, psychological flexibility, and high
Mhm.
performance. And so the six components that we tend to focus on, mindfulness is one,
Mhm.
thinking. So really having a help, think of it as mindset, right? Your thoughts,
Mhm.
emotions. So most people know this as emotional intelligence.
Gotcha.
We have self, which is really your identity, your values, and your signature strength. So getting really clear on who you are at your best.
Mhm.
Relationships. So, how you interact with other people, right? Interpersonal dynamics, communications, attachment, those kinds of things. And then habits and behavior. Do you understand how to change habits? Can you start and stop habits? Do you understand your behavior? And then
Yeah.
we teach other topics as well that are sort of hot topics like loneliness and work life balance and
Mhm.
fulfillment and engagement, things all along those lines. So it's basically everything that we wish people knew to
Yeah.
to live happier lives while performing well.
Yeah. Out of all of those, what have you found over
Mhm.
the years, just because I'm curious, is the most
Mhm.
difficult for people out of those six components? You
Oh,
Is there one that stands
man.
out that seems to kind of is a
Not
little bit bigger obstacle?
particularly.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, I think in that not so much. I think we do a really nice job of being able to break things down in a way that gives enough science to make it feel credible and reasonable, but also
Yeah.
destigmatizing and kind of saying like, here's what you need, no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a practicing psychologist, that they, 20
Yeah,
years of
that's
working
that's
one
what
on
I'm
one with people.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking. What is it that
yeah,
keeps people back mostly out of, and not that I know, I'm sure you do a
yeah.
beautiful job, and I didn't mean that. I meant just like as
Mm,
human beings, out of those,
yeah.
I would be interested in being curious about what's the hardest for people.
Yeah, I really think what it boils down to, people have a very hard time being uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
so, if you think about it, the way our minds work, they want to keep us safe and they want to conserve energy. So that means they take a lot of shortcuts when it comes to processing information. And what that means is you cannot believe everything that you think. They want to save energy and keep us safe. So they want to trap us inside our comfort zones. I prefer to call it familiarity zone because it's not always comfortable inside your
Yeah.
comfort zone. It just means following the rules. Like for me, my
Yeah.
mind said, do not tell people about your vision or else bad things will
Mhm.
happen.
Right.
So I stayed in my comfort zone by not telling people I can't see that. I would make excuses or fake it or whatever. And what happens is when you stretch out of your comfort zone, you're going to feel some sort of, I like to call it inside ick,
Mhm.
anxiety,
Yeah.
discomfort, embarrassment, shame. And most people interpret that the way we're wired to, which is anxiety means danger. So then they go back in their
Run the
comfort
other way.
zones. Bingo. So, what I really think is that people need to get better at being able to tolerate discomfort, to know, oh, this is just discomfort. It's not quote unquote bad. It's just discomfort because it means I'm doing something new and different.
Yeah.
I think that's
That,
the really big thing.
I think that's so true.
Hmm.
You just nailed it, and that's so interesting.
Hmm.
And I think you're right.
Hmm.
If we can understand it and step away from it and see it as, I was just talking to somebody today about just the word opportunity, that it gives us an opportunity
Hmm.
to,
Hmm.
just explore it and let it evolve and see what can I learn in this. Like this, it doesn't feel great, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
just stick with it and see by taking that little small step in that
Yeah.
discomfort, like what could be learned,
Yeah.
you know?
But what you're doing right there, Robin, is you're tapping into curiosity, right?
Yes,
And that is, I think a lot about in psychology we call it a choice point. It's like a fork in the road, and you
yes,
can let your mind's default go one direction or the other. You can choose curiosity,
yeah,
right? And curiosity is the antithesis of anxiety. It's a good counter to
yeah,
anxiety. If you're feeling really anxious, it's the oh no's, what if we brace, we shut down, we avoid, we escape. But if you can be curious, then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you can start to approach. You can be with it differently. And that does, I mean, that's based on a foundation of mindfulness to be able to even be
Yeah.
curious about your emotions or your thoughts or your experience.
Yeah.
The other thing, and this is a soapbox of mine, is that bad is not a feeling, right? Neither is good. Those are judgments. And I think one of the best things we can do is ban those, right? Instead of saying, I feel bad or I feel good, be more precise with your language. Because when your brain hears bad, it's like, oh no, problem. I shouldn't feel this way. I got to get rid of it. Instead, if we could say, I feel uncomfortable or I feel anxious, that all of a sudden gives us a little more space. And then we
Mhm.
have a little more choice of how we're
Yeah,
going to be with that.
absolutely. The name it to tame it.
Yes,
Kind of.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad
Mhm.
you pointed out curiosity. That's actually one of our practices in our curriculum. So I'm glad.
Oh, that
And
makes
it's
total
funny.
sense.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I mean, again, I'm always, but you find after years of practicing this that you just do it and you don't think, oh, I'm
Yep,
being curious. I'm just being me now. It just becomes who you
exactly.
are,
Yeah,
but it's still, I appreciate you pointing that out because it is. I love
yeah.
curiosity. I feel like it's such a powerful
Same,
superpower that we
same.
have that for me it's also something I tap into when I catch judgments, whether it's of
Absolutely.
people or situations, because once you shift to curiosity, you're just you're no longer judging it, and then you're open to
Yeah,
like learning and growing and what's this about,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. You're not sitting on that cactus anymore, right?
I
It's more like, oh, I've got a cactus. I wonder what this is. It's so, I love this. On my website, my about page, it actually says curiosity, compassion, and courage are my guiding principles. So
know.
we're very
Yeah.
aligned there.
Yes,
Mm,
very, very good. I love it. Okay, so
thank
let's keep going.
you. Mhm,
Let's see. Your story challenges so many assumptions about what's possible. What
mhm,
advice would you give someone who feels trapped by their circumstances, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever it
mhm,
is? What advice would you give them? And as we talked a little bit about, and we certainly can talk about it now, advice in general, but also maybe
mhm,
just one small actionable item
mhm.
that somebody could start implementing today to help them
Yeah.
toward a path of a purposeful joy-filled life. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, there I have so many thoughts. So if you're feeling trapped, I think the one of the most important things we can do is get really clear on what is and isn't in our control.
gotcha.
People mix that up, right? So that's kind of going back to what we were talking about choice a
Yeah,
few minutes
yeah.
ago. What is in our control? Attitude, actions, and attention. What's
Mm,
outside of my control, I can't control my retinas. I can't control outcomes. I can't control what people think, what they feel, what they do. I can influence it, sure,
mhm,
but I can't control. Control means it is up to me to decide how it will be. And the three things I think are inside our circle of control for sure: attitude, actions, and attention. So you can choose what kind of attitude you want to have. And I really encourage people to accept it. And people don't like that term because they hear acceptance as either I like it, I approve of
right.
it, or it's resignation. And it's not either of those. It's simply saying it is what it is. Like, oh, I got a cactus. Cool. Can't do anything about it. So I'm not going to waste time, attention, and energy on it. So accept what you can't change and then make the best of it. I can't change my retinas, but I can be miserable or I can live the way I'm living now. I choose this 100%. So
Mhm.
that's attitude. Actions, no matter what is happening, we get to choose how we show up and what we do next. And I see a lot of people give up that control either by sort of taking on a victim role. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm not even saying, oh, it's your fault or it's not your fault. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter where or how you got where you are or why you got there. But it's up to you of what are you going to do next, that next step. And I want people to take effective action that aligns with your values. So don't let fear call the shots. Take
Right.
effective action. And really, I think we need to do new things. I'm a big proponent of practicing, like seeking out new experiences, because that was part of what was so transformational for me. Not only does it mean I have an endless supply of entertaining stories, but
Mm,
what it did is it really taught me. that I can still do so many things despite vision loss. And that was big because I think what underlies a lot of stuckness is people feel like this is it and I can't do anything, or I can't be happy with whatever cactus you've got. So seeking out new things challenged that sort of subconsciously. And it made me start to code experience as a good thing, even when it's uncomfortable. And all of a sudden, then no, I don't really think any experience is quote unquote bad. It's just experience, something to value.
Yeah.
And then, so that, I mean, it's a whole soapbox. If I could get people to
Yeah.
try something new all the time, it increases your
I love
tolerance for
that.
discomfort and
And we love
uncertainty and all.
novelty, right? Our brain loves
Yes.
novelty. It's one of our brain
And it
facts.
makes life
Oh,
absolutely. And so it makes life entertaining, right? Like my world had gotten so small because that's what happens when we get consumed by stuckness or
mhm.
distress. And so it's a way to open your world up. So that was huge. And then attention, as you and I have been talking, that's mindfulness, right? Being able to control the flow of your attention. Not 100%. I don't think anybody's 100%, but
Yeah.
working on that because it makes a huge difference.
Mhm. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what would you like if somebody came to you and they said, I want to
Mhm.
start something today? Out of all
Okay.
of those, like what's just like one
Yes.
little micro skill that I could start doing
Okay.
right now?
I'm going to throw out two things.
Okay.
One, find a role model. So it
Oh,
doesn't have to be somebody that you really know,
yeah.
somebody from afar. For me, I happened to see a TED talk by a man who was blind and I mean, Ivy League educated, clerked for two Supreme Court justices, runs a multi-million dollar company with a beautiful family. And for me, that was proof it can be done. You can live a real, happy, successful life with blindness. So I've never met him in real life, but he became a role model. And the reason why this is important because it becomes then the question, if it can be done, why not by me? So if you're
Mhm.
feeling stuck, find a role model and then start to emulate them. I had a patient once, and hers were Taylor Swift and Michelle Obama. And this was a college kid who, people were getting, dramatic and being catty and everything. And she was like, I really want to snap back, but I'm going to go high. What would Taylor do? What would Michelle do? Cool. So that's one thing.
Yes.
The
Love
other
that.
one, if that doesn't speak to you or you're like, that's not for me, the other one is just to separate you from your mind. And the way to do that is when you start to notice something, let's say, I said the wrong thing goes through your mind. I want you to start to say, my mind is telling me I said the wrong thing. You
Ooh.
can't go outside without mascara on. My mind is telling me I can't go outside without mascara on. I can't acknowledge being afraid. My mind is telling me I can't acknowledge being afraid. Whatever it is, add those words. My mind is telling me to start
Okay.
to create that distance. And then it becomes a game. Who's going to win, you or your mind? My mind's
Ah,
not winning. I'm
yes.
winning.
Ooh, I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is telling me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. The practice that you just mentioned before, we really should probably talk after this podcast because that's actually one of our practices.
Really?
It's our inspired aim practice where people come up with somebody they admire. They write down three traits
Wonderful.
why they look to them, and it's our practice is called hero in training, and you just try and emulate that because and every time you do, you start to become a little bit more like the person you admire.
Yes,
And I always say mine's Mother
absolutely.
Teresa, and I'm never going to be Mother Teresa, but I can spend my life trying to be
No.
like her, you know,
Yes.
and it feels so
Yes. We call
good.
it, yeah, at Peak Mind, we call it your values board of directors. We do the same thing. Pick 5 people that emulate different values or qualities that are important to you, and then you start to emulate them.
It's so
Yeah.
powerful. It really is.
Hmm.
And when you start to, so most of the time you're the only one that knows. It's just in your own little mind. You're
Right.
like, yeah, I did
Yes.
that a little more than I did the last time, or a little bit,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it is so
Yeah.
inspiring. So I love that. And you're
Yeah.
right, it's very doable. And I love the whole
Hmm.
my mind is telling me. I'm going to add that to my inner dialogue because I
Yeah.
think we all can, we all get kind of stuck in a downward spiral occasionally.
Hmm.
So excellent. Well, good. Well, okay. I always like to ask, okay, well, tell us before we kind of start moving to the end here a little bit about your
Hmm.
book. So I haven't been
Okay.
able to dive into that, but tell us your book, like what's going on in your world now that you're excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. So the book is called The Way I See It, A Psychologist's Guide to a Happier Life. I happen to have one right here,
Yay.
just in
Nice.
case. So it's I like to think of it as if your best friend and your therapist teamed up and they wrote a book and it was science-backed real talk to help you live a better life. This is it. So it's chock full of super short chapters. Most of them are 10 minutes or less. It's actionable things so you don't have to sit and read it all in one sitting. A lot of people have told me they just pick it up, they read one chapter and then they chew on it for a while. And it goes through the stuff that we've been talking about. It's how your minds work. It's how to deal with difficult emotions, relationships, how to figure out who you are at your best, how to do hard things, and then finding lasting happiness. So it's I think the best compliment I've gotten was a good friend of mine said, "You know what? Reading the book was like having a conversation with you." And I thought, that's great, right? That's what I was hoping for.
Those are
So,
the kind of books that
um,
people love, that
yeah,
feel heavy in the science, or they feel relatable, they feel comfortable
yes.
in just like we're sitting here talking. Yes.
Absolutely. So it's if anybody's interested in trying it out, I have a free chapter available. The chapter is How Your Mind is Holding You Back. And that's available at drashleysmith.com/free chapter, all one word. And then that'll also sign you up to my monthly newsletter. I just send out one email a month and it's
Yeah.
essentially like a new chapter
Yeah.
of the book. So short musings on what's going on.
Okay.
And so
And
that I'm very excited.
where can people
Oh, the
find the
book?
book? Yeah.
It's available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and audio. It's available also from Barnes and Noble in paperback and audio. And then you can get the audio version anywhere you get your audiobooks.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, I'm adding it to my list of books
Enjoy.
to read. I can't wait. That's awesome. And so what else is there anything else going on in your world? I know you're doing a lot of speaking.
I am. I actually closed my psychology practice a few months ago to focus exclusively on speaking. And there's my work through Peak Mind. And then I also do quite a bit of speaking just as Dr. Ashley, where it's more inspirational meets
Yeah.
tactical. So still I mean, my shtick is science plus story. And that's been quite an adventure. It's been a good exercise in practicing what I preach, jumping into the unknown and using all of my skills. So I'm enjoying that a lot too. And I have plans to write another book. So stay tuned for that.
Um,
And hopefully that'll be coming um, probably next year is realistic, but working on it.
Wow.
And yeah, do a little teaching on the side and training of future clinicians and current clinicians to help people
Mm,
struggling with anxiety.
that's beautiful. Yeah, it sounds like a nice full life that
Mhm. Mhm.
has purpose. Yeah, and I'm sure you.
Yeah,
Oh gosh, that's amazing. Very good. So,
thank you.
as we kind of wrap things up,
Mhm.
I always like to ask people, what is your go-to with self-care? Because I think that it's really important.
Yeah. Hmm.
Those of us out here who are sharing the message of mindfulness,
Yeah.
resilience, all of this, that we need to be modeling it. And as we've already
Hmm.
talked about, we've already established that we're a work in progress
Yeah,
too. And I feel like I'm always
absolutely.
have a different thing that I'm kind of keeping top of mind depending on where I
Mhm.
am. But what do you do for self-care right now?
Yeah, honestly, I do a lot, but I tend to think about self-care the way we teach it at Peak Mind, which is sort of three levels. Level one is your basic, this is what humans need to stay alive. Level two is the part everybody misses, which I'll talk about. And level three is like the treat yourself kind of thing. So, and
Oh,
that's what
sure,
most
right.
people think of as self-care.
Of
So I do
course.
that. I mean, I get a monthly massage. I like to get
Sure.
pedicures, but my level two are the daily and weekly practices that help me show up as the best version of me. So my self-care, pretty heavy on exercise, strength training, yoga, boxing, and walking. I eat a
Mhm.
very low processed diet or processed food diet because it helps my body feel better. Try to
Mhm.
stay off screens from 10 p.m. on to get better sleep. I do
Mhm.
some journaling, certainly gratitude and mindfulness practices. And then the other pieces that are really important for me feeling like me, it is the new experience. So once a week, at least one new thing. Connecting with people. Specifically, I like to connect in a way that makes me feel inspired and motivated. So I know who my go to people are. Like, this is the kind of conversation that leaves me with that feeling. And then travel. I do that as much as I can. And I like to travel in a live like locals kind of way. And it's new experiences, it's coming off autopilot, it helps me with appreciation. So those are my self care practices right now.
Love it. Yeah. So
Mhm.
what's the most recent fun thing you've done that's been different?
Okay, well, so the last new experience I had was Wii boxing, and that was last night with my nephew. And so,
So
uh,
like the old
like
school Wii, like
yeah,
bowling,
old
tennis.
Nintendo Wii. Uh-huh. I've never done that before. So that was the last one. But some of them are not big experiences, and then some of them are really big, like meditating with a monk on the side of a mountain in Seoul, Korea. And so they span the gamut.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're right. I love how you explain kind of the three tiers because I think as a
Hmm.
culture we always talk about the top one, I'll
Yeah.
call it the external self-care. It's like, yeah, yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
of course those are wonderful. I never say no to those.
Yeah.
But they're temporary.
No.
And even when you're there, you still can have these thoughts, spiraling and
Hmm.
distractions and all those things that don't really
Yeah.
help internally, to calm and to
Yep.
find peace. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And to be
Oh
able
my
to
goodness.
show up with the quality of mind, body, and spirit that you want. And that's what I think real self-care is how do I show up that way consistently? And it is not going to be a pedicure. So
No, 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 I know. Oh, well, Dr. Ashley, it's been such a delight to visit with you. I'm just grateful
yeah,
that you were willing to visit with our listeners and me today. You just such wisdom
absolutely.
and your TED Talk, if people want to go and listen to your long version because
Mhm,
it is very moving,
mhm.
do they just look up Dr. Ashley Smith on TED Talk,
Yeah, you
YouTube?
can it's yeah, it's linked through my website. So it's
Oh, your website.
drashleysmith.com. It's on a
Okay.
couple places there. And yeah, if you go to YouTube or TED.com, you can search my name and it'll come up.
Okay. And if people want to get a hold of you, they'll just go through your website. There's a way to contact
That's a
you
great way to do it. Hmm.
with that. Yeah. So if you're feeling like you want to connect with Dr. Ashley, sounds like she would be open to that. Well,
Yeah, definitely.
I've just been I feel completely inspired. And that's what this is about, right? This podcast is really
Right.
to inspire and empower all of us to
Hmm.
move toward a journey as we journey toward living a life of mindfulness and resilience. And so, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for listening today. Of course, you can like, comment, subscribe, share all the things. You're always welcome to reach out to me with questions. Robin at mindful-momentum.com. But thanks for being here, and we'll see you all next time.